Welcome back to Bible Talks on WBCM Radio. You know, we're on our 20th deep dive now into
Wow.
the scriptures, and today we're turning to a familiar face,
Oh, yeah.
Abraham, and a story that might leave you scratching your head. Genesis chapter 20. Anyone
Okay.
following along at home? We're using the NIV translation.
All right.
Let's unpack this. We find Abraham venturing into Gerar, ruled by King Abimelech. And wouldn't you know it,
Here we go again.
he pulls a move we've seen before, claiming Sarah is his sister,
Uh-oh.
not his wife.
Yeah.
It's like a repeat of chapter 12.
Yeah.
What do you make of this? Is Abraham slipping back into old habits?
Ugh.
Or is there something more here?
It's fascinating how the Bible, even in its ancient storytelling, manages to present these timeless dilemmas.
Yeah.
What's striking is that Abraham, despite his covenant with God, seems driven by the same fear that plagued him earlier.
Yeah.
Remember, we're talking about a time when societal structures were vastly different.
Totally.
A woman's beauty could be a source of danger, attracting unwanted attention and potential violence.
Right.
Abraham's actions, while morally questionable to us, might have been seen as a necessary survival tactic in his context.
Okay, so you're saying like back then that was just kind of like
Yeah.
how things were.
And we have to try to view it through that lens.
Yeah.
You know, we can't impose our modern morality
Exactly.
on an ancient culture.
Yeah, that's a good point. But isn't there a certain irony to it?
Oh, absolutely.
He's afraid of being killed for Sarah's beauty, yet he puts her in a position that could lead to exactly that.
Yeah.
It's almost as if he's trying to control a situation that's ultimately beyond his control.
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture,
Okay.
it reminds us of the tension between human agency and divine providence. Abraham, despite his faith,
Okay.
tries to orchestrate events according to his own limited understanding.
Yeah.
He underestimates God's protection
Right.
and allows fear to dictate his actions.
And here's where it gets really interesting. God directly intervenes,
Buckle up.
appearing to Abimelech in a dream,
Oh, wow.
warning him that Sarah is a married woman.
Ooh, what a wake-up call.
Talk about a wake-up call.
Right.
This divine intervention underscores a couple of key theological points.
Okay.
First, the sanctity of marriage. God clearly defines it as a sacred bond that cannot be violated even unknowingly.
Right.
Second, it highlights God's active involvement in human affairs. Even though Abimelech is not part of God's chosen lineage, he protects Sarah and ensures the covenant with Abraham remains intact.
He's looking out for them.
I'm struck by how Abimelech responds to this divine encounter. He pleads his innocence,
Yeah.
arguing that he had no idea Sarah was married. There's a genuine sense of bewilderment and even indignation in his voice, isn't there?
Absolutely. It raises an important question about culpability.
Okay,
Is intention enough to absolve someone of wrongdoing?
that's interesting.
Abimelech, despite his ignorance, still took Sarah into his household. The text doesn't shy away from exploring the complexities of human action and its potential consequences.
It makes you think, huh?
It does.
And God acknowledges Abimelech's sincerity. He assures him that he knows Abimelech's heart is pure, and that's why he intervened, preventing him from sinning. This act of divine mercy is really remarkable, wouldn't you say?
It's a testament to God's grace and understanding. He sees beyond the outward action to the inner intention.
Yeah.
But he also uses this encounter to reveal something crucial about Abraham.
Okay, what's that?
He identifies him as a prophet.
That's huge.
It changes the whole dynamic of the story.
Yeah.
Suddenly, Abimelech isn't just dealing with a wandering nomad, but with a chosen spokesperson for God.
Whoa, that's a big deal.
It is.
And this revelation comes with a command. Abimelech must seek Abraham's intercession for healing. God uses this situation to highlight both the authority he has bestowed upon Abraham and the power of prayer.
So Abimelech, realizing the gravity of the situation, immediately returns Sarah to Abraham. But he doesn't stop there. He lavishes Abraham with gifts, sheep cattle servants.
Wow.
It's an incredibly extravagant gesture.
Why do you think he goes to such lengths? Is it simply about making amends?
What's fascinating here is that it's not just about material compensation.
Okay.
Remember, in that culture, honor and reputation were paramount.
Oh, right, right.
Abimelech's actions are a public declaration.
Uh-huh.
He's acknowledging the wrong done to Abraham, even if unintentional, and seeking to restore both his own reputation and the social harmony that's been disrupted.
So it's like a public apology almost. And then
Exactly.
there's that detail about the 1,000 shekels of silver given specifically to Sarah.
Right.
That's a hefty sum.
It is.
It seems to carry a significance beyond just monetary value. What do you think was the deeper meaning behind that specific gift?
It's a symbolic act of vindication.
Okay.
The silver presented publicly serves as a recognition of Sarah's status as a married woman and an acknowledgement of the offense against her honor.
Almost like a legal settlement. A way of formally setting things right in the eyes of the community.
It highlights the importance of social order and the means by which transgressions, even unintentional ones, were addressed.
Oh, wow.
But this is where the story takes a turn. Despite Abimelech's attempts at restitution, the consequences of Abraham's deception are still felt.
Oh.
A shadow falls over Abimelech's household.
And that's where we'll pick up after a quick... Just kidding. We're diving right in. Tell me more about this shadow. What exactly happened to Abimelech and his people?
The text tells us that the women in Abimelech's household were afflicted with barrenness. They were unable to conceive. It's a potent symbol, isn't it? The very source of life of continuity is closed off.
Yeah, it's certainly dramatic development, and it raises so many questions. Is this a direct punishment from God? Is it meant to be a symbolic consequence of Sarah's presence being disrupted?
Yeah.
What do you think is going on here?
The commentators have wrestled with these questions for centuries. Some see it as a form of divine retribution, a consequence of violating the sanctity of marriage even unknowingly. Others interpret it as a disruption of the natural order. Sarah, as Abraham's wife, is meant to be a part of his household, his lineage. Her presence in Abimelech's home creates a kind of imbalance, and nature itself seems to react.
Huh. Interesting. So, like, her being there messed with the natural order of things.
Yeah, in a
But
sense.
what strikes me is that God doesn't abandon Abimelech, even in this moment of affliction.
Precisely. It's a reminder that even when consequences arise, God's mercy is always at work. He allows Abimelech to experience the weight of the situation, but he also provides a path to healing, and that path leads through Abraham.
Right. It's Abraham who intercedes on Abimelech's behalf, praying for his healing and the healing of his household. It's a beautiful example of the power of intercessory prayer, wouldn't you say? Even though Abraham was the one who initiated the deception, he still acts as a conduit for God's grace.
Absolutely. It speaks volumes about the nature of forgiveness and reconciliation. Abraham, despite his own flaws, is still chosen by God to be a blessing to others. And God, in his infinite mercy, hears Abraham's prayer and responds with healing Abimelech. His wife and the women of his household are restored to wholeness.
So in the end, everything is restored.
Yes, God's grace prevails.
Wow. It's a powerful reminder that God can turn good even out of difficult circumstances. And it underscores the importance of prayer, not just for our own needs, but for the needs of others.
This entire chapter is like a tapestry woven with threads of faith, fear, deception, consequence, and ultimately redemption. It's a story that challenges us to examine our own lives, our own motivations, and our own relationship with God.
When I think about Abraham's repeated deception, it makes me wonder, do we ever fall into similar patterns in our own lives? Do we ever try to control situations out of fear rather than trusting in God's providence? Do we ever let our anxieties dictate our choices, even if those choices compromise our integrity?
Those are profound questions, and they get to the heart of what makes this story so relevant to us today. It's a mirror reflecting our own human weaknesses, our own struggles with trust and surrender. But it's also a story of hope, reminding us that God's grace is always available even when we stumble.
Yeah, it's easy to judge Abraham for his actions, but I think there's a lesson for all of us in his story. We're all capable of making mistakes, of giving in to fear of taking matters into our own hands. But God, in his infinite love, meets us where we are, offers forgiveness, and guides us back to the path of righteousness.
And he often uses those very mistakes, those moments of weakness, to teach us profound lessons about ourselves and about his unwavering faithfulness. Think about it. It's through Abraham's deception that God reviews his identity as a prophet. It's through Abimelech's affliction that the power of prayer is demonstrated.
Wow. It's as if God takes the messy threads of our lives and weaves them into a tapestry of grace and redemption. We may not always understand his ways, but we can trust that he's working all things together for good.
And that's a truth worth clinging to, especially when we find ourselves facing challenges or making choices that could have far-reaching consequences.
This deep dive into Genesis 20 has been incredibly insightful. What stands out to you as the most important takeaway for our listeners?
For me, it's the reminder that God is intimately involved in our lives, even when we can't see his hand at work. He protects us, guides us, and ultimately uses every experience, both positive and negative, to shape us into the people he created us to be. We can trust in his providence even when life throws us curveballs.
That's such an encouraging thought. It's easy to get caught up in the anxieties and uncertainties of life, but knowing that God is in control, that he has a plan for us, brings a sense of peace and purpose.
And it frees us to live with courage and integrity, knowing that we don't have to manipulate circumstances or compromise our values to achieve our desired outcomes. We can surrender our fears to God and trust that he will work all things together for our good.
This conversation has really challenged me to examine my own heart, my own motivations, and my own reliance on God.
Mm-hmm.
I hope our listeners are feeling that same sense of introspection and inspiration. And for those just joining us, you're listening to Bible Talks on WBCM Radio. We've been on quite a journey today, unpacking the twists and turns of Genesis chapter 20.
It's a wild one.
But before we wrap up,
Mm-hmm.
I want to bring it back to you, the listener. How does this ancient story, with all its drama and moral complexity, connect with the choices we face in our own lives today?
That's a fantastic question, and it's really the heart of why we delve into these stories. They're not just historical accounts. They're mirrors reflecting the human condition. Think about Abraham's fear. Haven't we all been there?
Yeah.
That feeling of vulnerability?
Oh, yeah.
The urge to protect ourselves?
Oh, sure.
Even if it means bending the truth.
Absolutely.
Mm.
We've all had moments where we've given into that little voice whispering, just tell a white lie, it'll be easier.
Right.
But as we see in this story, those seemingly small choices can have ripple effects, creating unintended consequences that we might not even anticipate.
And it's not just about the act of deception itself. It's about recognizing that underlying fear,
Okay.
that lack of trust in God's providence.
Yeah.
Abraham, even with his covenant with God, still tries to orchestrate events according to his own limited understanding.
Right.
He forgets for a moment that God is in control, that he has a plan, and that his protection is always available.
It's a powerful reminder that even those who are considered heroes of the faith still wrestle with human weakness.
Yeah, we're all human.
It makes their stories all the more relatable, doesn't it?
Right.
It's encouraging to know that even when we stumble, God's grace is sufficient.
Precisely. And we see that grace so clearly in God's interaction with Abimelech.
Yeah.
Despite Abimelech's unwitting transgression, God acknowledges his pure intentions, extends mercy, and even uses this encounter to further his plan, revealing Abraham's identity as a prophet.
It's a beautiful illustration of how God can work through even the most challenging situations, bringing good out of what seems like chaos. It challenges us to trust in his sovereignty, even when things don't make sense from our limited perspective.
Absolutely.
And it also highlights the power of prayer. Just as Abraham interceded for Abimelech and his household, we too have the privilege of bringing our concerns, our fears, and our needs before God. We can trust that he hears our prayers and that he is always working on our behalf, even when we don't see the immediate results.
It's a powerful reminder that we don't have to carry those burdens alone.
Yeah.
We can bring them to God in prayer.
It's a reminder that we're not meant to navigate this life alone. We have a God who loves us, who cares for us, and who desires to guide us every step of the way. And we have the gift of prayer, which allows us to connect with him, to pour out our hearts, and to receive his peace and strength.
So as we wrap up this deep dive,
Okay.
I encourage you to reflect on the themes we've explored today. Where do you see yourself in this story? Are there areas in your life where fear might be dictating your choices? Are you trusting in God's providence even when things feel uncertain?
To questions.
And are you utilizing the power of prayer to connect with him and to seek his guidance and strength?
These are questions worth pondering, and they're just the beginning of the conversation. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this episode. What resonated with you the most? What insights or questions did this discussion spark for you? Head over to our YouTube channel at www.youtube.com/@RadioWBCM and leave a comment below the video for this episode. We love hearing from you.
And while you're there, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to stay updated on new releases of Bible Talks on WBCM Radio. We release new episodes every week, diving into a new chapter of the Bible or exploring a fascinating theological theme.
Plus, we also do Christian music reviews on our channel,
Oh, yeah.
covering a wide range of genres from contemporary worship to gospel to hip-hop. It's a great way to discover new artists and find music that feeds your soul.
We're passionate about sharing the Word of God and the beauty of Christian music with you.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on this journey of faith and discovery.
Until next time, may you be blessed with peace, joy, and a deeper understanding of God's love for you.